Sorry for keeping you waiting. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Holger Daugmann. I'm based in Germany, work in the field of sustainable mobility, and I'm together with Ramon Munoz-Vazquin, the co-founder of the Lee Schipper Memorial Scholarship. Big thanks also today also to the Volvo Research Educational Foundation, who is hosting the webinar and also provide long-term support, as well as the Kühne Climate Center, who just came in and also joining us also in our efforts, and we will hear a little bit more about that. So welcome everyone. Really excited also to have you all here. It's actually a pretty informal session, so we really also like to raise the awareness about the scholarship. We keep the introduction quite short. We hope also that you had seen also already the announcement as well as also the documents. So aim is really also to answer your questions, and I'm very pleased also that we have several current and past scholars also on the call, who can also share also some of their personal experience. But this is really about you and to your question. So very briefly about us, the background. Lee Schipper was not only a good friend of mine and also the father-in-law of Ramon, who actually was part of or is part of the Schipper family. But particularly he was a true leader, so in terms of thinker, in terms of sustainable transport and climate change. He co-founded Embark, the sustainable transport program of the World Resources Institute, but he was also professor at Stanford University as well as Berkeley, and had really a strong influence also on many of us and the younger generation. So when he unfortunately also passed away far too early, we also decided also to create a scholarship also to keep also his memory and also support the young generation in really so challenging or so conventional wisdom source like so data, because that was also his passion and also his work on research. So we now it's running also the scholarship for now 14 years with more than 30 scholars. So the scholarship provides several opportunities. So it's an opportunity also to gain also $12,500, but it also includes a mentorship program, as well as the access also to specific opportunities of the Volvo Research Educational Foundation, as well as as um, the Kühne Climate Center. Furthermore, there is an annual conference called Transforming Transportation, hosted by the World Resources Institute and the World Bank, and they kindly also provide also for many years also the opportunity also to have the scholars presenting very briefly also some of their work, and so gives that also more opportunities and exposure, and the scholars can also share a little bit more about that. We have very pleased also that we have for this year first time 5 scholarships. 3 are eligible also for anyone who's in the world, so it's called global, with also 1 specific focus on freight, and we will have also 2 African scholarships, which are just also for eligible also for African students under, or African researchers under the age of 36. That's actually also relevant also for us as a global scholarship, with also an affiliation also to an African university and based also in Africa. And here, so we have 1 general one on sustainable mobility and 1 also with a focus on freight and logistics. As mentioned also, this is supported by the Volvo Research Educational Foundation. VREF is a foundation based in Sweden. It's entirely independent also from the Volvo company, and provides funding also for research, particularly in the area of future urban transport. for more than 20 years. Like to very briefly also introduce you also to Sylvia Meyer-Wachsmuth. She works for the Kuhne Climate Center, and we are very pleased that Kuhne is also joining us in this effort to provide also the next generation. Sylvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Holger. Um, Thank you very much for having me. My name is Sylvia Meyer-Wachsmuth. I'm working for the Kuhne Climate Center as a community manager, and I want to quickly share some information with you about the KCC, how we call it shortly. So the work that we do sits at the intersection of climate, logistics, and sustainable development. And we often say that it's time that logistics needs to become part of the solution to solving climate change. So from this perspective, we're seeing that logistics has a dual role in climate action. On the one hand, there is a very obvious for more ambitious and effective climate action within the logistics sector itself, what we refer to as climate action in logistics. And on the other hand, logistics has a more hidden role in becoming a strategic enabler of climate action across all sectors. So whether it is scaling the deployment of renewable energy or enabling carbon dioxide removal, none of this would happen actually without logistics. So this is also why the Lee Schipper Memorial Scholarship is very important for us. We're hoping to, or we're supporting 2 additional scholars that are specifically focused on freight and logistics, and we're hoping to help them to help this strengthening this critical field. So why are we doing this? We want to support young, talented young thinkers like you are supporting their academic journey, but we also want that to develop green freight thought leaders of tomorrow who will shape how logistics contribute to climate solutions. And thirdly, we want to help to address the existing blind spots in global research related to sustainable logistics and transportation. As a KCC, we're also part of the Kuhne Foundation, as you might know, and we have an ecosystem through the Kuhne Foundation. For example, one sister organization is called Learn Logistics, who has a growing African logistics university network consisting of 17 partner universities across Africa. And we also have another sister organization, the Kuhne Logistics University, focused on logistics and supply chain management. So we don't only want to support you financially, but we also would like to become mentors and research partners, research buddy for the 2 selected scholars. And yeah, we don't see this only as an investment in individuals, but also in building a global community that is dedicated to advancing sustainable logistics and climate actions. So thank you very much, and we're very much looking forward to getting to know the scholars.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, and thanks again also for also like the support and also your interest also in also the scholarship. So we're looking forward to the partnership. With that, just also want to flag, and you see that also here so on the slides, in cases you haven't seen it, or so this leads you directly also to us like the details of also the latest calls. It's a 2-tier process where also we start also with an expression of interest, which will be evaluated, and then also if successful, finalists will then also get an invite to a larger proposal, which is also described also in also the information. Those who actually were successful in the process, we have online, and I'm very pleased also to have some of you around. As this is really about also like the question and answers, but I just want to give any of you who'd like to share some experience, some brief opportunity now, but then also please also help us with answering also some of the questions. So I see also we have owners on the call. We have can we start with you, Owen? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Great, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so I would begin saying by thank you, and maybe a brief highlight of what opportunities come with the scholarship itself, specifically if you're still in your journeys in your PhD in terms of your research. but it was a great exposure to other systemic thinkings because I was doing the PhD from Cape Town, and just being guided by the mentor that I was assigned to shaped part of my thinking, and they are quite valuable in the process. And it's also an opportunity to actually publish and uh, be part of your publication repository. Those are the two highlights. There is many other things that come downstream in terms of professional connections and career development, and just to highlight also what I'm doing right now is probably courtesy of the scholarship itself. Back to you, Holger.
Thank you. Thanks, owners. Thanks also for sharing. And yeah, it's great also to have you online, and we really trying also to create also like this networkers among the scholars as well, and this is constantly also growing. So
Holger,
going
could I ask, sorry to interrupt, you
Sure.
ask Owen to share just a little bit about the topic of his research, just to give folks some ideas, if you would.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Elvin. So I focus on public transport in Africa, and my specific research was on network optimization. And a part of it, I was looking at how sustainable mobility transitions like e-mobility could effectively be managed in the African context, where there is very less data. There is a lot of competing interest, specifically because it's not funded. It's privately run public service, and my aim was to see how you can introduce electric mobility with its capex and its high entry points to make it sustainable in a city like Nairobi and in the African context. I think that that aspect was quite interesting to see, and that topic also exposed me to many other learning points in terms of my comparison, because I did also do it for the city of Cape Town, or introduce some learnings from the city of Cape Town where I did my comparison with, which has also trailblazed in some of these transitions. Yes, that's in a nutshell. Basically just optimizing those systems, introducing new aspects of the transformation in mobility.
Thanks, Owen, and thanks also Aline also for adding also those questions. Going also to Olanike, so another African scholar with a slightly also different focus on freight. Can you hear us, Olanike? Oh, she
I just re-admitted her. I think she just dropped out. Let's see if she can hear us now. Olanika, are you there?
Olanike, are you there and can share briefly some of your experience from 2024? Otherwise, I see also we have as well, we have Minke from South Africa. Minke,
Hi,
can you?
hi. Yes, hi. By the way, I see Alanika is unmuted, so the
Okay.
issue might be elsewhere. But nonetheless, hi, I'm Minka Knipe. I'm a transport economist from South Africa. I was privileged to be a Lee Schipper Memorial Scholar from the 2025 cohort. And I have to echo what Owen has said. You know, this scholarship made it possible for me to investigate the feasibility of electric minibus taxis or electric paratransit in South Africa. And not just from one perspective, but various perspectives. And I'm happy to report that government is really interested in implementing electric minibus taxis in South Africa. Not necessarily as a result of my research, of course, but I would hope that it invoked some conversations. And I have to also agree with what Owen had said about opportunities that comes as a result of the research that you do for the Lee Schipper Memorial Scholarship. This might be now news to Holger and the team, but I've been approached by a nonprofit organization to scale up the research that I've already done through the Lee Schipper Memorial Scholarship to seriously engage with government and to sign memorandums of agreements with associations and with governments. And then moving on to transforming transportation in itself, I currently in my hand, I can't put on my video because I'm quite sick with a cold, but I have in my hands right now 12 business cards of people that I got from Transforming Transportation Conference, from attending and presenting at that conference, including development banks and some others as well. And so those are all leads that I still need to follow up on. And then the third thing that stood out for me is the publication opportunity. I've been able to publish the research in an academic journal, and the fourth benefit would be having engaged with my mentors and I also have engaged with professors at some other universities, including Harvard and MIT, and that was made possible through the network that the Lee Schipper Memorial Scholarship offers you. So I would definitely apply if I were you. Just be mindful that your research should preferably have a real life impact later on and have a policy impact. My understanding is that that gets preference. Thank you.
Holger, you're on mute.
Thanks, Minke, and sharing, and congratulations also to us, like the new assignment. That's wonderful news. Looking forward to hear more about that. I'm seeing also that people starting also to raise questions, which is good because that's also why we're also here. I ask Eileen also to respond also if possible is in the chat, but we can also go later back to that. So that we can start also the exchange. While doing that, I'd like to check again with Olanike if she's now if she can unmute and can briefly also share her experience. Seems still an issue, so we're flexible here. And Shreya, can you hear us and see us? If you can also put your video on. Wonderful.
Thank you so much for hosting this. I can see you all, I can hear you all. Hope you can also see me and hear me clearly. So, yeah, I mean, personally, this has been an immensely enriching experience for me. So, before I introduce myself, firstly, many thanks to the scholarship board for believing in the topic of my research. So I'm Shreya Banerjee. I'm an assistant professor in the Indian Institute of Technology, Jodhpur in India. And I mostly work in climate responsiveness with a focus on heat resilience. And this was my motivation behind taking up this particular topic because right now I'm based in one of the regions in India which is notorious for its heat waves. And that prompted me to kind of understand how walkability narratives are shaped in this particular city. So my topic was to explore extreme weather resilient walkability with a focus on gender responsiveness in South Asian cities. And I was awarded one of the scholarships from the last year. So I'm part of the same cohort with Menke. And I totally recommend submitting a proposal for this because as an early career researcher, you will get amazing mentoring support. Also, I couldn't attend the conference, the TT conference, because of some travel restrictions and other things. But I managed to watch some of the links in YouTube, and I felt that attending that could also be a really good bonus where you can clearly do a very good networking, as Mianke mentioned, and also you can learn from whatever is happening in different parts of the world in sustainable mobility. And this is a great community. Everybody is very supportive. And being an early career researcher, I am so grateful and I feel myself so privileged that I got this opportunity, because this has also opened a lot more interesting opportunities for me, which I'm being able to explore as part of this particular grant. So thanks again. And I would be very happy to help if any potential applicant is planning to reach out to me.
Thank you, Shreya, and be careful what you're offering here. So, but that's fantastic. Again, also, please feel free also to start everyone also to put some question in the chat, but we also open the floor very, 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 very soon. And again, also Shreya, also congratulations. And yeah, we were all deeply sorry due to the circumstances also that you couldn't also join in Washington this year. So trying one more time also with Olanike, otherwise also we will open also the floor for any questions. Okay, there seemed to be an issue there. So so please all scholars also stay online and also help me and Aline also to respond to any of the questions. So yeah, so the floor is open. Shoot any questions either is in the chat, or feel free also to just put your hand up and raise the question.
Holger, maybe while we wait for questions, just
sure.
relaying what I see in chat already. A couple of questions generally about how to apply. I put the link. It's the QR code is on the slide, and then I put the link in chat a couple of times with information to the scholarship and the application process. A question about how to apply as an international student or scholar. In fact, all international students are welcome. We have, as Holger said, 5 global scholarships this year. 5 scholarships. 3 will be what we call global scholars. 2 will be focused on freight. 1 of the global and 1 of the freight scholarships are open to or focused on scholars from Africa. And those are, as Holger mentioned at the beginning, expected to be researchers from Africa working at an African research institution, and specifically or ideally on research focused on Africa. But more that link is in chat and on the slide if you need more information. And then there's a question about, is there an available template guiding the proposal? I can answer that. The expression there, as Holger said, the application process is 2 phases. There's an expression of interest, which is due Friday, April 17th. And then, as he mentioned, the scholars that are selected to be finalists will be asked to submit a longer, it's about 2 or 3 page written proposal. The expression of interest is a Google form, with some very specific questions, demographic information, and then you're asked to submit a brief description of your project, a CV, a list of any academic publications, and a letter of recommendation, which should preferably be from an academic advisor or mentor. And then if you're selected to be a finalist, there's some very specific questions that we ask you to respond to about describing your project. And as Minka mentioned, we ask specifically about what the intended outcome is. So an example would be, instead of not just creating a travel demand model, but how would you use that model to shape policy or affect change on the ground? I don't know if you want to add anything to that about form or content, Holger.
No, I think that answered it very well. We have another question: is being a PhD candidate, a prerequisite for selection, or independent researchers are also accepted. So we just ask for an affiliation as a research, like a research organization or a university. It doesn't have to be also a PhD candidate. We often also have PhD candidate, but also we have also partially postdocs and partially also like even people also just also like going also through a master's thesis. Most important, as Eileen also highlighted, is in fact here the impact of the work, and also some sort of supporters and some sort of affiliation. So when you say independent research, that's fine, but also you still should have some institutions also helping and have also your support.
I see Olenike has her hand raised. Maybe we can try.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. For the internet meet. So my name is Olenike, and represent 2024 recipient of the Lee Schipper Scholarship.
Olenike, I'm very sorry, but I don't know if everyone else has the issues, but it's really hard to hear you.
Okay.
And if anyone else who's on that...
I don't know if it's better now. If you could hear me now, can everyone or anyone hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you. And if everyone else could stay on mute, please. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So, my name is Olenike, recipient of the 2024 Lee Schipper Scholarship. The project, I was granted the scholarship to work on the project, freight transport modeling in metropolitan Lagos. And this research has actually helped me see, just like Eileen said, on mapping stakeholders around the port. And also this scholarship has helped me facilitate partnership with institutions like the Gothenburg or Urban Freight Platform, and currently at the University College London, trying to work on how to do some comparative policy publication partnerships, even at Heriot-Watt as well. So the scholarship has actually given me the ground to network, and see how we can draft strategies for stakeholders activities at the port, like a conceptual modeling. So that's what the shippers have, or the opportunity availed me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much also for sharing, and thanks also for joining. So there are more questions also coming in, and also for any of the other scholars, feel free also to jump in any time on your experience, as well as if there are any specific questions also to the Kuhne Climate Center as well. Eileen, there were more questions.
Yeah, I see a question. Thanks, Holger. We talked about template. Are there requirements or proofs from the institution at the time of the expression of interest? Not specifically. We do require a letter of recommendation, and that's preferably from an academic advisor. I think the strongest applicants submit a letter from their, or it should be from an academic mentor or advisor. The strongest applicants, the letter is from their academic, their PhD advisor, or someone that's overseeing or guiding their research. That gives us, the scholarship board, the strongest sense of that you're well supported institutionally and have the resources and guidance that you need. So you could submit a proof of enrollment if you'd like. We simply ask what your institutional affiliation is. there's a question about what makes an application successful at the expression of interest and final levels. Maybe I'll start, but I'd like your thoughts on that, Holger, or some of the other scholars. I would say the biggest thing I'd emphasize is, Minka mentioned this, one of Lee's legacies, one of his areas of interest was taking data and research and changing the world, if you will. And so we call it an outcome or impact in the real world. So the most successful projects move beyond research to take that research and affect decision makers or help decision makers make change. And so Minka talked about convening some decision makers around paratransit in South Africa, those types of moving beyond the publication of the model results, but to actually talk about how you will take those theoretical or research results and change places, change cities, change policies. That's a requirement. That's what we're looking for. And I think the applicants that have a very clear sense of what that mechanism of change is are most successful. So they're very specific about who they're convening, how they're convening, what are those, what are the avenues to get the information to those folks, those decision makers or stakeholders. I'd say those are most successful. Holger, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you covered it well, but I wonder if any of the scholars also like also to share anything also from their experience, particular giving us examples how they also describe their potential impact also like the research as well as the novelty of any kind of research they did. Owen.
Sure, thank you. I would say that, yeah, Lynn, you've covered it nicely. It's going beyond the science and communicating and having some impact. I believe there was also, based of how I wrote my proposal itself, a sense of comparison, comparative analysis, where you bring in different contexts and showcasing the difference and having some very context-specific insights around the context that you are if you're simulating how that information is being fed back to the system and how it helps in decision making if it's a decision making model. That comparison also does give your proposal a strong bearing from what I saw. And I believe also showing the novelty and the approach in the terms of methodology used is not one of the legacy methodologies, and I believe that could also give you an edge. And if the issue that you're trying to solve is also a very fresh and current topic, especially in talking to the sustainability and just being able to communicate science and sustainability within it. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. And I see also Olanike and Shreya have also their hand up. Olanike?
Yes, so I think Owen has actually said everything because the prospective applicant reached out, and this was exactly what I explained to him. And to me also, like Owen has said, a comparison within the global south, and then maybe having some best practices adoption from the developed country context was also very contributed to the successful application. So I think, and then also policy, in-depth review of policy was one of the key things for my application.
Thank you. And Shreya?
Yes, I think Olanike and Owen has already mentioned most of the points, but I would just would like to mention a couple of points more from the proposal writing side. So my suggestion would be to just make sure that whatever you are writing, no argument should be missing. Like my recommendation would be to, just go through the proposal, whatever you are writing again and again, and just make sure that you are not overpromising things. It's very important to propose something which you can finish within 9 or 10 months. You should always be careful about the fact that you need to finish a substantial part of your work before the Transforming Transportation Conference, which generally happens in the month of March. So you should keep this in mind that you need to do all of your data collection and analysis and maybe a bit of literature review and all of that between September to February in general. And also the scholarship board generally recommends finishing the work a little earlier before the conference so that you can rehearse and practice. So then don't overpromise. Just try to set up a realistic target and try to show with your support network or whoever is the local stakeholder and any other supporting team that you have in your locality or anywhere you are planning to do the actual research. Just make sure that you are able to show how well connected you are with those stakeholders and how they can help you to finish your work within the time. And also, I would recommend that you can share a bit insight about any similar work that you have done earlier and how that kind of prompted you to envision this particular project. And because the timeline is really short, so you need to be really precise and you need to be really on point. So then it's always helpful that if you can show that you have a bit of background in doing something similar, or you can connect some of your earlier work with this or your connection with the local stakeholders. This is one thing. And secondly, please chalk out the budget very carefully, because a lot of times what happens when you, as an early career researcher, you are planning to chalk out the budget, a lot of times this happens that you are either underestimating some expenses or overestimating some expenses. So it's always good that you talk to someone senior who has prior experiences of doing the budget for any proposal, and accordingly you work out all your finances, and just make sure you keep a component which will help you to cover all the expenses for traveling to the conference. So that is also included in this particular part. So maybe you can just keep aside a budget at the beginning for the travel part. And also my recommendation would be, because one very important aspect of this particular grant is the fact that you need to align your proposal with all the visions and goals that Lee envisioned long back about the sustainable transportation and energy efficiency. So then maybe if you can show how your research is connected with the sustainable development goals, or what are the impact areas. For example, my work was associated with SDG 11.2. So if you can very specifically mention some of these things, then that actually, add more robustness to your proposal. And also, I think inclusivity part is very important. So if you are addressing some of the critical geographies, if you are addressing, say, some aspects in a lower middle income country, or maybe in global south, then maybe it's good to show how that can actually impact in societal transition, or maybe improving the quality of life of people. And rest of the things are usual, like just make sure you're not missing any argument. Just write it in like simple, lucid language, so that whoever is not acquainted with your exact technical domain also don't face any difficulty in reading what you are trying to say. And I have always seen from my personal experiences that if you do a nice storytelling, that always works. So if you can think something in that line, that is also something that can help you out in long run. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shreya, also for sharing
Really
also
good
your
advice.
experience. So that's fantastic. And that's please also for those joining us. So I saw that Minke also provided us some further reflection or so gestures in the chat. And meanwhile, there were 2 further questions, even as we answered. Just want to get back to that, just to clarify again also on the African scholarship, as we will have 2. One is also on a wider subject around also sustainable transport. The other will be also on freight and logistics. Again, as we said, also those are just eligible. The African one just for researchers who currently is based in Africa, affiliated also with an institution that's in Africa, and also have also a African nationality. Reason also why we do that is in fact we particularly are eager also to support also scholars and researchers also on the continent. Nevertheless, obviously, everyone African abroad is eligible also to the global scholarship, and that can be still also with an African topic. So that's also no one is excluded here, as well as also to highlight that also African scholars are automatically also competing also in the global scholarship. So if those also stand out, not just in the African corridor, but also on a global level, also that also allows also at a maximum also having actually 5 Africans also getting all the scholarships. So that's just also a clarification on that. And I think, Eileen, there was another one also you already.
There was, there was but maybe helpful to convey. And I'm sorry, Alexander, I realized, I think I maybe misspelled your name in my response. Apologies for that. But the question came from Alexander about, in the expression of interest, we ask if you have, we ask you to confirm that the proposal is for original research and that you haven't raised other funding to conduct or to complete that proposal. They were saying they have national funding for their part of their PhD, and so is that disqualifying? And certainly not. We have, many of our applicants are current PhD candidates, and so they have some institutional support either from the university or, as you mentioned, from a national funding. But often they're looking for supplemental funding for travel or to hire support for data collection in the field, or to convene a workshop, and that our funding can certainly complement sort of base institutional funding for your PhD. What we're trying to avoid is funding a project, a proposal that essentially you have already completed, and you've already received funding. You've essentially already completed the research, and you're sort of double dipping, if you will. So we're more than happy to complement other institutional funding to support your degree. We do, some clarification of how that maybe pays your salary, and the scholarship would be used, as I said, in those other areas for travel, for field work, for hiring additional research assistants, or buying specific software or technology that you need for your research. Explaining, in the budget, we ask for specifics about how the money would be spent, and so the more you can be precise about how it differs from your base salary from the university, that would be helpful. Let's see, we have
Thanks.
And then
yeah.
And you addressed the question about travel. Yeah. So we do invite the scholars to travel to Washington, D.C. in March for the Transforming Transportation Conference at the World Bank. And that is included in the award. So Astrea had said, be sure to earmark that. Go ahead.
So just also on the travel, just also to flag, this should be, as said also in the response, it should be also part of your budget. Having said this, also the Volvo Research Educational Foundation, as well as the Kühne Climate Center, has specific travel programs, which also you will be eligible also to apply, which also allows, for example, also to extend also then also your stay in Washington, or also go to other conferences related also to also your to your research. So so this is part also of the wider exploring the wider opportunity also with like the funding partners. There is
I can
another
take that
one.
last question.
Yes, okay, yes, please.
Janasia, I think we emailed about this, but it's helpful to share with the larger group. The question is, folks, applicants that come from a non-academic background, can they apply? I would say the priority or preference is given to scholars or applicants with an affiliation with a research institution. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a university. There are research think tanks, organizations that are sort of outside of academia but do research. I would say that is certainly acceptable. While there's a focus on a real outcome, I would say, and being, the connection to a company or a startup would be an interesting approach. I would encourage you to find sort of tie it to a research organization in some way. And so if that's you're doing a concurrent degree or there's another affiliation, I would say that's there's definitely preference given to that. So there would be a I won't try to solve that for you, but that's a bit of a conundrum if you're outside of research entirely.
So hi, Aline, this is Janisha again. So in that case, a letter from my organization, a startup, wouldn't work. You would want a letter from a research organization. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
I would say that's been the preference in the past for a research affiliation. Yes.
That is correct. What you could do is still sort of like, and that's also for everyone else, any further letters of support with sort of like other institutions, like also city governments or businesses are welcomed and will be acknowledged, but at the same time, particularly also underlying also the opportunity also of achieving impact also through research. But at the same time, this is actually for the scholarship is for research, and so therefore, so we also ask for some sort of affiliation. So in your case, if you have then any kind of partner research organization, or so you usually also with your startup work with, I think that could also work. So, but I would strongly recommend also to also have that sort of letter. So
I guess can I add to that, Holger? I'd say one of the criteria we look at, Shreya mentioned it in terms of scaling the scope of your work to a reasonable schedule. One of the things the board looks at is we consider essentially our confidence in your ability to complete the project. And one aspect of that is your research experience. Now, this is a young scholarship, so we don't expect, we understand that the applicants are starting their career, but we do, we look at your own academic background. That's why we ask for your CV and your research publications. We're looking for your institutional support. So, that you're with a PhD program in a sustainable transport program at a university with a mentor who's, on board with your research. Those all give us some confidence that while we provide mentorship, that, in your home organization, that you'll be successful in completing this in the time that proposed. Hence the more that you can emphasize your research experience and your institutional support, the better.
Okay, can I just ask another question, please? So the organization that I work in, I can prove that it's I can implement what I have, what I want to propose as a part of the research and provide outputs as well. And I am pretty sure that a startup like mine would be open to the experimenting that I am proposing as a part of this. but you would still, like, if implementation is the goal, then my my startup organization will be able to write a letter like that and confirm its support, uh, unless the board is really willing only looking at research, then I'll have to rethink my approach on this.
So again, we obviously also this we try also with those as a scholarship be as flexible as possible, but there's like have to stick also to our rules here. So therefore, obviously also we assess also from also the wider set of criteria, including also CVs, including also like the impact, including the novelty of the idea, also the methodology, the ability also to deliver also on time. So this is just as one criterion. We mentioned also that we will also assess in terms of there is also like some link also to a research organization, but that also should not prevent you also to also for applying, but just as to highlight that you might also score on that specific element a little bit lower. So I hope that clarifies also your question.
Sure. Thank you.
So there was another one, Aline?
Yes, so a question about just general eligibility in terms of degree. So it's not limited to PhD students. We've had master's, PhD candidates, as well as postdocs or assistant professors. The expectation is that there's an age requirement, so not 36 before you submit the EOI, and then also that it's been not more than 5 years since your last academic degree. So in some cases, people are like Minka, when she applied, she was still completing her PhD program, whereas Shreya is an assistant professor, had completed her PhD already. Others are postdocs, and some are master's students. So there's not a requirement to be a PhD candidate, but that we do adhere to the age restriction or limitation very specifically, and the expectation that your last degree was not more than 5 years ago. And then, does the scholarship provide any academic mentorship, supervision, or institutional connections that could help scholars transition? Shreya's responding. We shared earlier in the webinar, so folks that joined later may have missed. Yes, mentorship. All of the scholars are assigned a mentor from the scholarship board this year, with the addition of the Kuna Climate Center funding 2 scholarships related to freight or logistics. Those mentors would come from KCC or their network. Sylvia, when I'm finished, if you want to add to that, please feel free. So a mentor is assigned to each scholar to provide guidance, provide feedback on their research. We work with you before the conference in March at the World Bank to shape that very short presentation. And then Minka mentioned she's had some opportunities to travel and connect with some other scholars at other academic institutions, and some of those connections were facilitated through the broader Lee Schipper Friends Network. So, definitely happy to connect people with past scholars and others. Shreya has provided some feedback there.
Yeah. Just also to clarify, the mentorship is a little bit lighter than also we not necessarily immediately identify a supervisioners for like a PhD. So this is also something also we expect us as a scholar also to either have in place or also look for. As part of the scholarship, we might also help us to identify also where the future opportunities around that. But at the same time, to clarify, so if this research is part of a future PhD, we would strongly recommend also that you also would have a formal supervisor also in place. So we starting to run out of time, but there is was there another question? I don't think so.
I think we've got them all. We've
Okay.
answered them in chat. I will put the link. Well, the QR code is on the screen. I will put the link to more information about the scholarship, and the application process is here.
And there was a question about the EOI, so you actually find all the detailed information as well as the link then to the submission of the Google template for the first round in the link provided. So
yeah, that website that I shared has another link to the application portal. It's a Google form, so it asks you a series of questions about your date of birth, so we can verify you're a young scholar, where institution affiliation, and then it asks you to upload several documents, preferably as a PDF. So it's going to ask you to upload your proposal. It gives you a word limit. If you can follow that, that would be appreciated. So a short proposal, a CV or resume, letter or list of past publications. You maybe don't have any, and that's fine. And if you need to say, I'm a new scholar, I'm starting my master's, that's perfectly acceptable. And then the last one is a letter of recommendation from an academic advisor. So you attach those or upload those as PDFs. And the final, those that are asked to submit a final proposal, that would be later this summer. It's a few pages, 3 or 4 pages. And when we invite you to submit, we share a list of very specific topics or questions we want you to answer, and you submit that as a PDF with a budget via email.
And so there was a final question. Can we have another session? I'm very pleased. So this is of interest because this was just the second time so we're running that, and on a short notice we will actually record that. So if you feel you missed anything or came later, you can also watch that, and we will provide the link to everyone. Eileen also shared like that we also have an open email, so for any question. But please also, before you question, really read carefully also the guidance documents, which in 98% also should also answer your question. But if there is anything also we can help with, we still is happy to do so. So given also the short amount of time left, we will probably also not have another session, but again also feel free also to reach out. With that, I like to thank you also for joining us. Really excited that so many also had an interest, and in fact 190 people or so signed up, so we will share also with everyone who couldn't make it also. Thanks also to us like the current and former scholars, Owen, Olanike, Minke, and Shreya for also sharing, and again also thanks also to Sylvia for joining us from the Kühne Climate Center and for their support, and finally also thanks Eileen also for your long-term supporters for that and your great answers to the questions. So with that, I wish everyone a good morning, good afternoon, and good day. And we're really looking forward also to get also your proposals. So thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.